man. We live, man. Hey, appreciate everybody who tuning in live to the Trapper Dive and everybody who will be tuning in live. Welcome back to another episode this week or today, because it is Tuesday. We are talking all things Washington football. And before I get to the guests, we got the full crew here. AJ, Dre, both of y'all are here. AJ, man, how you doing today, bro? You over there in the shadows, bro? You know what I'm saying? You smoking
I'm
some
in the
hookah?
shadow.
Yeah, man. All we see is that hookah stick.
I don't know why.
No, I'm messing with you, bro. You know what's funny? I didn't know like 2 days ago until like 2 days ago that people put like wine and Hennessy and or not combined, but like they put wine or Henny or some type of liquor in their, I guess, water or something with the hookah thing to make the high better or
Yeah,
something. Like How that shit work? Have
man.
you tried it?
I don't think that shit. I don't think that should do anything. I think people just be playing with themselves. Like I had a shorty come up with the
waste
crib
their
one
money.
time. Yeah, a shorty came over to the crib one time and poured milk in the shit. I was like, "What the
Excuse
fuck are
me.
you doing,
What?
bro?" I was
Time
like, "Grow up." She's like, "Bro,
time
she's like,
out.
it make it smoother." I'm like, "Grow up."
First off, she would have had to go because I'm lactose intolerant. That's the last time I talked to her. Dre, how you feeling tonight, bro? Everything good on your end, man?
Everything good, man. Just got back in the house drinking my tea, so I'm good. Putting the
Uh,
alcohol down for a little bit.
you
That's
know what's
cool.
crazy? Before
That
you
boy
said that,
said
I thought
drinking
you were talking
tea.
about the actual tea. The what's the thing I always talk to you about? I forgot the name of it. Earl Grey. I think it's
What?
Earl Grey or something like that.
Oh, yeah, no. This is like some shit I got from like Whole Foods, like a little organic section. I was like, man, let me get some detoxification in my life.
Man, you
That
need to.
boy, that boy
Where's
gonna
the
have to
liquor
take a
at?
shit.
Where's the liquor at, man?
That boy gonna have to take a shit for sure.
It's crazy. I talk all that
Put
shit
the
and I be
liquor down for a few weeks.
yeah. I don't even keep my
You
liquor in
a
the house,
healthy
bro.
dude. You
I
gotta say you the healthiest dude out here,
I
Jamal.
hey, I drink on the weekends, bro. I talk my shit, but trust me, I drink on the weekends, man. So it is what it is. But I respect it though. So today, we got my boy Jerrell on the show. Jerrell is a good friend of mine back from the Flowers days, for real, for real. It's been
Yes,
it's like,
sir.
yeah, you've been around for a minute, man, and obviously you got some things going on your end. First off, for those who don't know, Jerrell is famous by association. He meets a lot of famous people on his day job. Takes pictures with them. You know what I'm saying? They rap to him for a little bit. Jerrell, look, man. First and foremost, I appreciate you hopping on the Trap Dive podcast, right? But
I
secondly,
appreciate it, man. I'm a
um,
fan for sure.
I appreciate it. First off, how are you doing? And secondly, we got to talk about your job right quick for a quick second because I do have some questions about that. How you doing tonight,
No,
man?
for sure. I'm good right now. Since we're talking Washington football, I had to
Oh yeah,
represent
do it right.
last time we won a bowl, so I
Do it
felt it's
right.
only
The
right
time we wasn't born and
bring
shit.
a
I love it.
exactly bring out something vintage. But no man, I'm
Vintage.
good.
I appreciate
Just
that.
just chilling. Work's been busy. Lots going on in the world. I work in news for those who may not know. I went from working local news. I was working Channel 7. Now I work on Sinclair, the corporate side. We're doing this show called the National News Desk.
Okay.
So we focus on everything. Like today, even though I don't know, if this is like it's not a flex at all because we're not really
Talk your shit,
fans of this
man. Let
person.
it go.
But yeah, I spoke with Donald Trump Jr. today. Like that's one
Oh,
of those like, yo, I can't believe like that happened. Yeah,
Wow.
wow, right? Like I did a mic check and I do audio, so I'm just sitting there. I'm like, they're like, yo, is he gonna call? And he calls, and I'm like, let me get a mic check, and that's me talking to him. I'm like, I really just spoke to Trump Jr. Wow,
well, luckily you didn't
that's
have to talk to him
mind-blowing.
for too long, man. What was probably like 10 seconds, 10, 15 seconds, something like that.
Yeah, 10. It was something real quick.
That's your
But
heart, man.
I give it to him out of people of his ilk. He showed up on time. I'll give him that. So won't give him many kudos, but he was on time. Working in TV, you guys would be surprised how many of the people we love show up so late, and we got to make accommodations for them. We make it look good because once it's on air, no one cares.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
behind the scenes stuff, man, I'll write a book one day.
Hey, look, do that. Let the people know what you go through. First off, Sleezo, what's going on, bro? You didn't miss much. This is actually the beginning, man. We haven't even started talking ball yet. He is not holding a Dragon Ball. He is holding his microphone. Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely holding the microphone. Nah, my bass is messing up, so
Nah,
it's
you
all
good.
good.
It's my boy. He over here. He
Dragon
just over
Ball,
here
that's funny.
talking. He over here talking shit. That's all. All right. So who are the people that you? Because I done seen a few pictures on the Instagram. I don't know if it was Twitter, but definitely Instagram. I done seen you taking the pictures with some famous people. I would just ask, just for the sake of the show, like, who was the like 2 or 3 best interactions you had with the people that you've met so far?
Ooh, the biggest star that I've met. Let me say this: the biggest star I've met, and I have a picture with, would be God rest his soul, Alex Trebek. And
Okay.
meeting him was one of those things like, dude, like I've been watching you like my entire life. And he was really cool. He was cracking jokes. And mind you, I work the morning shift, Mual, you know, but I get up dumb early. Like I'm at work at 4 in the morning. So
Oh damn.
he came in like 6:30 a.m. He was just kicking it. Like it was really cool. And it's few people where everyone goes crazy and wants a photo. He was one of them for sure. Who else have I had the privilege to meet? Meeting Dick Gregory. That was, and we were his last TV interview too, and we had to kind of fight for that. And some of the white people was like, "Who's Dick Gregory?" And it's like, "Who's Dick Gregory? Are you serious?" And we met him, and like a month later, he dies, and it was just like, "Oh, Art." And we aired his interview, and I'm like, "See, and if it was up to them, we wouldn't have had him come in." But I will say, and it's crazy, I'm speaking to all the people who passed away. John Witherspoon is the only guy I've ever seen come with no security. It was just him, Dolo. Like usually you have the PR person, you might have like the assistant. It was literally him. And it was crazy because it was on a Friday. I'm like, yo, I met Pops on a Friday, bro. Like,
Shout out to Pops,
that's
man.
crazy, dog. Super
Listen,
cool, man.
every interaction that I've seen, like whether it's like video clips, behind the scenes, anything, it's him being a fool, like in a good way. That shit is
Yeah, no,
hilarious.
he really was that type of guy too, man. But just the like, I've met people who had tons of entourages or whatever, but meeting him, it was like looking around like, where's your PR person? Oh, it's just me. It's like, really? Yeah. All
What you
right,
expect?
cool. So, yeah, no, like man, I've seen people come in droves. Like the biggest star that's come to my job, I didn't even get a picture with him because it was so crazy. Like John Travolta came to work. Dog, it was like a Secret Service mission. Like my man came in, did the interview, left, and he was bombarded by everybody. It was like every man for himself. I'm like, yo, I'm not gonna get this picture. It's all
Hey,
good.
AJ, do people need that much security the way he described it? Cause I know you're around people. Do people need that much security? I don't believe he needed that much.
I mean, you don't really need it depending on what you got going on. Like people got a lot of shit going on. I mean, you John Travolta, hell yeah, you need that wherever you go. You John
Facts.
Travolta, you know what I mean? So it's people gonna bombard you no matter where you at. It could be
Uh,
CBS,
yeah.
news station. A news station ain't even supposed to be like that type of energy, but at the end of the day, these people that grew up on you, big time fans. So yeah, depending on who you are, but I mean, if you a D class celebrity, hell no, you
Yeah,
don't need
no,
no
you don't need
entourage.
like the D class is one of them is like, bro, like why are all these people here? Because then you gotta make sure they getting water and yeah, it's a big to do.
You got a rider, you got all them shits you got to fulfill. Like it should be crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
Facts.
All right. Well, shout out to John for Travolta. I thought the way it sounded, I didn't think he needed all that shit, but I guess he do.
Nah, like
That's why I
he
went to
when I tell
AJ.
you he was on a time crunch, they was like he only got 6 minutes.
6.
Yeah, and it was just
Dang.
like get in. The interview was like 4 to 6 minutes, get in, get out, and he was bombarded by the entire news station. Because I mean, it's John Travolta, like everybody gonna want a picture with him. So
Whatever. He cool in movies though. You know what I'm saying? He alright. Like, nah, let me stop hating. I'm over here talking shit. Let's let's go ahead and get into some Washington football, man. Um, Jerrell is clearly a Washington football fan, as you guys see from his
absolutely.
shirt.
So
As we've talked about so far, you know what I'm saying, repping the vintage throwback stuff. We could go ahead and get into the quote of the week. Now, initially, fellas, I did have this on the back burner, and then I thought about it. It's kind of, it should be like top of the news in a sense. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about the president's beat. Jesus Christ, for y'all haven't seen me with the braces off. I'm struggling a little bit. I've been struggling since I got them off. The retainers just fucking everything up. So I'm trying. I'm trying.
Congrats on that, by the way.
Look, I appreciate it. You know, it's like 20 months past due since they told me I was supposed to get off, but you know what? I'm out. I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna keep it pushing, right? All right. In the spirit of that engagement, I want to address a name that has emerged amongst our fan base, Warriors. One might look at this name as a natural and even harmless transition, considering that it does not necessarily or specifically carry a negative connotation. But as we learn through our research and engagement with various groups, context matters, and that makes it a slippery slope. Feedback from across communities we engage clearly revealed deep-seated discomfort around Warriors, with the clear acknowledgement that it too closely aligns with Native American themes. Such an embrace of potentially Native adjacent iconography, he has big words, and imagery would not represent a clear departure that many communities have so forcefully advocated for us to embrace, and that, frankly, we set out to do when we started this process a year ago. Again, Jason Wright via the president's brief. What's going on? What's going on, T? I appreciate you tuning in. Second, you know, if you got any questions, you want to comment, you know what I'm saying? I told you you always welcome to join the discussion. So fellas, that's Jason Wright on the recent thing, the Warriors. Warriors crossed off the list. Now we talked about this a few times, Dre, AJ. We're not that we have opinions on the names, but we're not in a sense that pressed to talk about it this far out because we know how the process is going to go. But an update is an update. And we know that Warriors is officially crossed off. Fellas, it's open discussion here. How about this? Why the hell did we not think, or did we think that Warriors be even considered? And the reason why I say that is, and I'm gonna talk about it from my perspective, and I'll give you all the floor, right? It never dawned on me that Warriors, like, because I figured that could have been one, up until he said that they did the research and it determined that it wasn't. Like, this entire time, it made sense that Warriors had ties to Native Americans. And if they weren't necessarily, if they were trying to do away from that side completely, I'm not necessarily mad at the fact that they crossed that off. Something that was actually, it wasn't the majority, but it was popular amongst the fan base. Just general thoughts on what Jason Wright said, but then also at the same time, what are y'all thoughts on? We talked about this before the show started. What are y'all thoughts on the fan base going up in arms as we see over the fact that Warriors is no longer part of the final list?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, the name shit don't really matter. I feel like as long as you keep the color scheme and the team wins, that's all that matters. Well, at least to me, you know, like at the end of the day, they were called the Redskins for how long? We barely been making the playoffs, been doing anything to really cheer about. I just feel like some people just are too attached to certain things and don't know how to maneuver with change and understand the process that they're going through. You know, it's not many franchises that have that type of legacy and history that have had to change their name, what 70-something years later? I don't even know how long it's really been. But, I mean, I just think fans need to relax. They'll probably know about it before next year. I think I tweeted something along those lines where, like, the Patent and Trademark Office, they got put in all that paperwork. People are looking at the filings every day to see if Washington's applying for whatever. You'll probably know what the team name is probably by October. I mean, at the end of the day, just win games. That's all that matters. I think the team should be called the Washington Bonquisha. It don't even matter. If they win they in the damn playoffs, they compete for a Super Bowl, people ain't going to give two shits about what the name is.
I only thing I'm interested in is seeing how the announcers are going to try and pronounce Bonquisha at that point. I want to see how they fumble that. All right.
Vanquisha.
Yeah, where y'all at with it, Jerrell and Jay? It don't, like I said, it don't matter who go
Yeah,
first.
it's for me. Like I said, when you see them talk about the Warriors and stuff like that, that was a fan-driven thing because a lot of fans just couldn't get past the attachment of the Redskin name, so they were trying to think of anything to kind of relate to that without seeming so offensive. But the whole point of changing the name was to get away from those connotations. So I don't think it was ever seriously considered once they decided to go that route. And for me as a fan, like AJ said, it just I don't really care much about the whole process. I mean, when we get a name, it's like cool, I'll embrace it, whatever. But like I lost that attachment to Redskins long ago, even though it was what it was. But it's for me, it goes back to high school. This was some years ago. We had a Native American speaker come in and talk to our class, and Redskins was one of the topics. And he was like, he was speaking this piece and stuff like that. And me being an ignorant high schooler, I'm like a junior at the time. I'm like, hey, well, it's saluting you all and this, that, and the third. And he tells me, he said, well, how would you like to be called the Washington Niggers? And I was like, damn, like he really hit me with some stuff right there. And I was like, so ever since then, I was like, man, you know what? Whatever happens with his name, whatever. I mean, I'm a root for him, but no attachment. So once it was like official, I was like past it. But that's why I said you can't go to anything like Warriors, Braves. You can't do any of that now because you have to get away from that. Like people will say, well, what about the Golden State Warriors? But the Golden State Warriors, that's where they talk about the context. Like the context matters. Warriors doesn't have an Indian connotation to it, but Washington's history has. So anything relating to that, they're going to always come back to in context. So, yeah, people just have to get over it, man, and just be patient, enjoy the process. We're going to get behind whatever the name is. Like I said earlier, people keep saying, oh, this name's corny, this name sucks. But every name, someone's going to think of something. How stupid is Green Bay Packers? But none of us care because it's tradition. Like, the San Francisco 49ers, that's a stupid name, but no one cares. I mean, because that's what we're
It's just
used
been
to.
around.
So after a while, people are going to get, that's what I'm saying. People will get used to it after, it's going to be the outrage and the people are going to settle into reality. So people just have to be patient, let it play out, and it is what it is.
Where you at with it, boss?
I mean, y'all pretty much said everything that needed to be said. I agree. I mean, Warriors has the lineage of our history, whether we were originally the Braves and then the Redskins. So I understood that sense. And again, long as our colorway stays the same, which they've already said, and we win games, we don't really care. Like, I mean, if you talking football names, the Cleveland Browns, like
Oh yeah.
that's a horrible name,
Yes.
bro. Like people, they were like
Yeah.
cracking jokes on us. I'm like, what's a Carolina Panther? Like what's like is the Panther the state animal? No, so why are you the Panthers? Like it's same thing. And then I'll never forget when the Supersonics moved to Oklahoma City and became the Thunder, and we was like clowning them like the Thunder, really? That's your name? Then they get KD, Russ, and Harden, and they make the finals, and it's like, yo, they tough. And we don't even slander the name anymore.
No more.
We only slander it until you win.
Yep.
Like we slandered the Pelicans, then they get Anthony Davis or whatever. It's like, oh, they all right. They got Zion, they cool. So at the end of the day, we win. I've said this, and this is another topic, I guess. If we win as the football team, that should just be our name. I know it won't because we're processing it, but if we win a bowl, which is far, I'm not saying we will win. We win a bowl this year. I don't know why we change it.
That stumped the shit out of me. Cause it's like you in the process of making all these changes. You're in the process of what AJ said, going through the legal process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then working on your branding, and then working on like the final tail bits of what you're gonna do, like especially like communicating with the league, like what you're gonna do with everything that you collected over this year, and you win the Super Bowl as watching football team, and then you change your name. Um, that's interesting, I would say. And me personally, I think, well, actually, let me actually go to T, because she mentioned, she's talking about the fans, and I agree. She said they're going to be mad regardless of the name. They're bored and have something to be mad about something. It is. I don't care what it is. I mean, it is what it is. That's true, right? And as far as the name in itself, I kind of like I said, I'm in the same boat, man. It doesn't matter until you start winning. 7-9, and it doesn't really accomplish anything for anybody, right? Like that's just 1 year in a bad division. But then we're talking about a team where everybody except for Philly, sorry, Sleezo, but everybody except for Philly is clearly upgraded in whatever respect. Dallas got their quarterback back. Then you have the defensive side upgrading and coaching. We don't know where it's going to take them in terms of like just actually seeing what it looks like on the field. But you get rid of Nolan, who was ass, and he was terrible before he even joined Dallas. And then you got the Giants, who has continued to build pieces like guy head coach. I forgot his name, but he seems stable. But we don't know like what it's going to do with Daniel Jones. But they do have the weapons there on the offensive side of the ball, and we'll see what that defense looks like. Washington, for obvious reasons, we've upgraded in certain areas and key pieces. And there's 3 different teams that's going to be competing. And when you're talking about trying to start anew, a lot of things matter, but the most important thing that matters is looking good in this process. You can't just be out here. Matter of fact, who was it? I think it was Charlotte. The Hornets back when they were changing their situation. Or the Bobcats and now the Hornets. They were terrible. I think when they were in the process of changing their name and nobody really cared. Nobody really cared about that.
Yeah,
and
the Bobcats.
Yeah, and nobody really cared about what they were doing. And obviously they don't have, comparatively speaking, they don't have the same history as Washington. So they kind of, it is what it is. But at the same time, like when you're in the midst of something this significant that means so much to people, got fans fighting on Twitter about a name. Shout out to you all, you know what I'm saying? If y'all tune in, if y'all watch, if y'all listen, you know what I'm saying? You know who you are. Y'all just need to talk to each other, work that shit out. Stop talking on Twitter. Let it go. Talk on a fucking phone.
So toxic, dog.
It's over a name. Over a name that's not even our name yet. Or that's not going to be the name. But yeah, like it's all come down to wins, man. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't care what the name is. Just don't let it be Red Wolves. Don't let it be Warthogs. Don't let it have any hogs in it. I don't want that shit, bro. It's corny, and I pray to God that the people making decisions understand how corny it is. All right. I mean, I guess we're done. We can transition. So look, AJ, you missed last week, so I saved this one for you, and I saved this one for Jerrell. We kind of had our opinion on this one, Jerry. But I laid a question to you all. Let's have a discussion about it. Excluding Chase Young, because we're transitioning to training camp in 2021, previewing that. But excluding Chase Young and defensive line, because we know how they're going to be. They're already looked at as the most dominant unit on the defense, on the team. Is there any player on the Washington football roster that has potential to be in the top 5 of their position group this year? AJ, let's hear from you first, man. Is there anybody on this roster who has that potential?
Yeah, I think you have William Jackson, the cornerback that he just got in from Cincinnati Bengals. A lot of people don't really know about him just because he played for the Bengals. They don't get a lot of national media coverage, but he's one of the top corners in the NFL. For whatever reason, things didn't work out in Cincinnati, getting him a new deal. But this guy is a top-tier corner. He has all the things that you want out of a prototypical corner these days. Over 6 feet tall, 200 and something pounds, long, lengthy, fast as hell, can play the bump very well, very good at press man coverage. I think, going against elite quarterbacks this year, and also with the pass rush that he's never ever had in his career. I mean, of course, he had Geno Atkins for a part of his career in Cincinnati when he was one of the top defensive tackles, but now being able to play in front of like a Chase Young, Montez, Evan Payne, and those guys in the front four, I think he could do big time numbers. and when I say numbers, not necessarily getting picks, but like shutting down wide receivers, like making sure like one side of the field is all taken care of. You may not see the big time interception numbers. Like I said, he's not one of those type of guys. I mean, he can make a play on the ball, but at the end of the day, coverage, he could take away a whole side of the field and allow, other guys to make plays on the ball or whatever. But yeah, that's someone I see moving into the top 5 of their position within the Washington football team this year.
Where you at with it, Jerrell?
Nah, he took my pick. I think William Jackson is definitely, he was already a really good corner in Cincy. I think given, the NFC East, it's so funny when I have friends who trash like our division, like, oh, the NFC East sucks. And I'm like, hate it or love it, you pay to see us. Like when it matters most, when it's week 15, we get those primetime games because we matter, bro. Like, I'm sorry, y'all don't matter. So if he balls in a division where people care about us, whether we go winless or we go undefeated, yeah, he'll be top 5.
So you both got William Jackson. Let me pose this question to you all because I kind of asked it on the tail end of the show last week. It's about Terry McLaurin, and I want to emphasize that this is not a knock on Terry McLaurin. This is me asking a question about, is it possible? And I'll just go ahead and say it, right? The first 2 seasons of Terry McLaurin's career, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'd imagine he went through about 8 quarterbacks. 5 last year for sure, and it was Dwayne. No, Dwayne was last year too. So you had Case Keenum and Colt McCoy. Okay, Case Keenum, Colt McCoy in year 1. So I guess 7. Point. In both of those 2 years, he looked really good. Statistically, he was really good. And then production wise for the quarterbacks that he had or that he didn't have, he looked like a number 1 receiver. And I'm trying to figure out, there's been so much talk about how much better he can get with a really good quarterback. And that's possible. Like that is the logical response based on the production that he had with 7 quarterbacks. But is it possible as well that what we saw production wise, like 900, 1,000 yards, like just over 1,000 yards, like, is that possible that that's the best we can get from Terry McLaurin as well? Again, we're not saying, I'm not posing the question in the sense that he's a bad receiver. I'm posing the question in the sense that he may not be that number 1 that we can, or is it possible that he's not that number 1 that we're expecting to be just because he didn't have a quarterback? Like, that could be the potential that we've seen is what he's been producing the first 2 years. So I'm posing that question to you all. What do you all think about that question? Is it a possibility? Is it a fair question to ask about Terry McLaurin?
I think
guess
it's fair. Yeah, I was gonna say no. I think it's fair because Terry, to me, he's a high-end number 2 receiver, which isn't a knock or a bad thing. I mean, although some fans here might take that to be a bad thing because they hold Terry in high regard. I mean, I hold him in high regard as well. But if you're comparing Terry to the rest of his peers around the league, then he's not at that number 1 of, say, the top 5 guys like the DeAndre Hopkins of the world and those type of guys. But that's okay. Like, Terry doesn't have to be that guy. I mean, we would love for him to be that guy here, but that's cool. That's why you get compliment and you get surrounding guys. Maybe at some point you will get another number 1 guy next to him. But to say if we've seen Terry's ceiling, possibly, but that doesn't mean you won't see increased stats with better quarterback play because Terry's a hell of a receiver. I mean, I think he could put up more numbers if he's targeted more. I mean, that could be the case. But like I said, the more talent you put around him, you're still probably going to get around the same numbers. And Terry, I think he's going to have a solid career and possibly it may be a borderline Hall of Fame career, in my opinion.
Oh, the HOF word. Okay. All right.
Borderline.
Hold on, Dre, you just confused me. You called him a elite number 2, but then said a borderline Hall of Fame career?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how many number 2s is borderline.
Hines Ward, type of guys. Lynn Swan. These were guys that were probably never superstars in their lives, but they have
What?
borderline Hall of Fame careers because of the teams they played on and stuff. You know.
Lynn is a Super Bowl MVP. What you mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I
but
can,
if you
I
listen
can
to a lot of people,
understand Lynn
a lot of people
Swan.
say Lynn Swan should have gotten the Hall of Fame over Art Monk.
No, I agree with that. I think even like on
that's
the Steelers back in the day, Stallworth was a better wide receiver than Lynn Swan. Most people from back in those days understand that. But I mean, with Terry, I don't even know you'll be able to see his real potential this year either. Like y'all know, I'm not a fan of the quarterback options
Yeah.
or the team. I mean, at the end of the day, you got a guy who's a gunslinger, so he probably might even make the wide receivers, including Terry, look bad because he might try to force the ball way too many times in comparison to making the smarter play. Um, I mean, I think the team also realized he's not a number one.
Yeah.
That's why they tried so hard to get Amari Cooper. A year or two ago? I mean, they really went after Amari hard with 22 million. You don't do that if you think you already have a number one or a potential number one guy on your roster, because eventually you're going to have to pay that person if they are number one money. But there's so many damn elite wide receivers in the
Yeah.
league.
that
There's
part.
no way. There's no way that I think Terry even gets to the top 10. I
Right.
mean, we could. There's literally ballers, like elite guys ahead of him. He would have to have like one of the most remarkable years in NFL history, world wide receiver, to get pushed up to the top five. But I mean, he got potential. He got attributes or whatever. But I don't think we'll ever see that until Washington really adjusts to this quarterback situation with someone elite, in my opinion.
And go ahead. Yep.
I was gonna say to piggyback off the both of you guys. I actually do feel like Terry can be a number one, and I feel like as AJ said, we haven't seen his true potential yet. He's shown flashes, but also lack of quarterback play, and then our system itself just kind of crumbling. He has all the again with there's so many different number one type receivers. Like Diggs is a number one, but like looking at the build of a number one that we grew up on, like the T.O.s, the Randy Mosses, those are clear number ones. And I think the way Terry's a really good route runner, he has really good hands, and he's a deep threat. And even though I'm not the biggest Ryan Fitzpatrick fan either, if he's actually throwing bombs away, which is something we haven't seen in our offense in some time, and Terry's on the end of a couple of those, that changes people's perceptions immediately. Um, I feel like Terry will look better if our other receivers in our receiving core pan out as well, because then that makes Terry get easier one-on-one matchups, and he'll dominate.
Yeah. But so I agree. It Terry is essentially gonna be dependent upon like his other receivers to help him out. Like they have to like that's the reason why they brought in Curtis Samuel. That's the reason why they brought in a decent slot man and Adam Humphries to possibly take over that role. Obviously he's gonna end. I think he has to. I think he's guaranteed to. Like he's gonna have a spot. I don't think Steven Sims is gonna be able to beat him out. It'll be Curtis, Adam, and then obviously you draft Diami. And then everything else under those four is kind of like see where it goes. Cam Sims is maybe a lock, but you rely on these guys to help out your better players or your best players, your best weapons. And with Terry, I think Manny brought it up last week too. Like he does have some issues with his route running. Not necessarily something that's a significant hindrance, something that he could build upon, and it actually kind of helps with what he did with working with Doug Baldwin this all season. When you're looking at a guy like Terry and just hoping that he turns into something that he currently is striving to be, he is that top of the line number two guy. Um, it does come down to just who can help him. I don't necessarily and to piggyback off everything that y'all are saying, it's not necessarily his fault. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do think the basis of this question stemmed from a couple of things. And the first thing was, why are we as a fan base, I'm not necessarily saying all four of us are a part of that because I don't think we were, but why are we projecting this man to be a superstar? He has not shown superstar potential. But secondly, why are we acting like he is better than 5, 7, 10 receivers, in the NFL? I just didn't see it. And I don't see it right now based on what he showed us. And when you mentioned Stephon Diggs, Jerrell, the man fucking leads the league in receiving yards last year, 1,500. That's over 100 more than Travis Kelce, who's the tight end. He was second. DeAndre, D-Hop, 1,400. Justin Jefferson, 1,400. Devontae, Calvin, DK,
But Maul, let me cut you off on that. Remember when Diggs got sent to Buffalo? And I'm not saying I feel like we're all very astute football fans. There was a lot of question marks of like, is Diggs a true number one? Was Thielen the true number one on the Vikings? And then it was quickly was like, oh, he's that dude. Like Diggs is the guy. No one saw Diggs having a career year last year.
So let me ask you though, who was it? Was it the fan base in Minnesota who said that? Who actually knew Diggs, or was it people who didn't watch him each and every week that made that question?
Both. It's a little bit of both.
I mean, I think his getting sent to Buffalo just seems like a career ender. You feel me? But like I recruited Stephon Diggs coming out of college. Like I knew the type of talent he had. Being based in the area. Being able to see him in high school, college, even though he had injuries in college.
Him over Jameson.
You seen that he had all the tools to be an elite wide receiver. So when he got to Minnesota, I was not surprised that he was a dog. You feel me? And he knew he was a dog. That's why he didn't want to be a second fiddle to Adam Thielen. He probably didn't want to go to Buffalo. But the only reason why I would say people could have knocked that was because of Josh Allen. I still don't believe in Josh Allen per se, but when you got a dog at wide receiver who, no matter what the defense tries to do to take him away from the game plan, he's still going to make plays. Because once you can run routes, it don't matter how fast, how slow you are, you're going to get open. And we've seen what a true number one wide receiver can do to impact a team overall success. There's no way Buffalo makes it to the AFC Championship game without Stephon Diggs.
Absolutely.
Like, that was a game changer, and that's why I've been feeling like this team, Washington in particular, has not done enough to address getting a number one wide receiver. Because I don't think Terry scares many defenses. Like he's not having coordinators stay up late at night wondering how do I stop him or we're gonna lose this game. Like he's just not that guy. But if you put him with a complementary piece that is a number one, you got a whole different type of wide receiver and offense. That's why I'm surprised they ain't go get Julio. Titans, they know they got a number one in AJ Brown, but they went and got another damn dog so that you can't lock in on just one player or two players. You now have to play the whole field, and now we can scheme everything up for our tight ends, for Derrick Henry more, for AJ, for Julio, whatever. If you look around the league, most of the teams that have success have two wide receivers that are not necessarily of elite status, but they could potentially be of elite status as a duo.
Dre, did you have initially? I don't know if you had something to say. You look like you about to comment for a second. You good?
No, I was gonna ask AJ. I was like, AJ, a tough critic, man. Josh Allen didn't impress you last year.
I mean,
come on now.
Did he impress me? He didn't impress. He had
a hell of a year.
He didn't impress me. It was more so like you got a dog at a number one wide receiver in Diggs. It's easy to scheme him open. You feel me? If anybody impressed me, it's probably their offensive coordinator. But Josh Allen's just I don't know. He don't do it for me.
Well, we talking about that motherfucker had like 70% completion, bro. I don't know. That motherfucker.
The one thing I like about Allen is he's not afraid to throw. Like, and if you look at with Diggs, Kirk, like with Case Keenum was just letting it go. Like, I'm gonna give my receivers a chance. Kirk Cousins wanted their players to be perfectly open, which in the NFL that rarely happens. Allen is like, he a dog. I trust him over the corner. I'm gonna make him make a play, and that's really the difference. Like, if I know I got a dog, I'm gonna give him the ball, and that's what made Allen really great. But I agree with AJ. Like Allen's cool. People like, oh, he's a top 5 quarter. No,
No, sir.
we can cut that out right now. No,
Y'all seen
no.
that quarterback list?
I wouldn't be shocked if he was there by next year.
They had him over Deshaun Watson. Like, I'm telling you, Buffalo is not the same team.
I wasn't on that list at all, was he?
He wasn't.
I mean, but I think that was clear for the issues that he was going through. Like, they not purposely leaving the man off.
Man, they crazy. I almost tweeted about it earlier. I'm like, did ESPN purposely leave this man off this list because it does not make sense? But I mean, the impact of Diggs on Buffalo even made Cole Beasley look good.
Absolutely.
Like, he had over 1,000 yards playing slot wide receiver, and now they done brought in Emmanuel Sanders. So it may make Josh Allen look good, but a lot of the scheme, he doesn't really have to do too much. I mean, you got a guy in Cole Beasley who's pretty shifty at the slot. You got Diggs who could play anywhere. He can line up anywhere on the field, and he's always going to get yak. So it's like those numbers may look a little funny, like Kirk Cousins numbers. You know what I mean? But I don't see elite quarterback.
Kirk ain't never threw 37 TDs and 10 interceptions.
That's because Kirk's afraid to throw the ball when it matters. Josh Allen,
10.
his naiveness helps him. We're just like, screw it, got nothing else to do.
Yeah, like he got legs too.
But he's also accurate.
He's accurate.
This week, I mean, I say this week. This year, all right. So we're gonna sit here. So we're gonna sit here and act like we're gonna sit here and act like he was not throwing. Right, he was throwing dimes down the field, short, intermediate, long distance. He was throwing that motherfucker, bro. What are y'all saying?
The Kansas City game, it was like one out route where he just missed them by like a mile. It's like, where were you throwing? No, bro.
Now I know the narrative behind. I know the narrative behind Josh, right? I will give y'all 1,000% credit. His first 2 years, bruh, no, he wasn't it. That's just not. That was not Josh Allen. And even after this year, you can't say that this Josh Allen that we seen in 2020. We can't say that it's going to carry over. But my point is, when you're talking about Josh Allen in 1 year, with giving him help, he didn't have shit before he had Stephon Diggs or fucking. He didn't have shit. They gave him a weapon. They gave him a top tier weapon. And what did he do? He fucking cooked. He cooked, and they got running backs. I can't remember their names, but I followed them before the season started. But these niggas, they know what they're doing at the running back position. I'm just saying he had help this past season, and then they brought in E-Man, like AJ just said. This shit's going to continue in terms of like bringing talent around him. Can he continue to perform? We'll see. But y'all can't sit here and act like he was not fucking accurate in 2020.
No, I'm like he's a good quarterback. He's good based on his environment. But in the playoffs, if someone can key in on that, he gonna get got. And honestly, we're talking about Fitzpatrick. That's really the best case scenario. Fitzpatrick isn't as athletic as Allen, but in terms of like you provide Fitz with a whole bunch of weapons, and we'll see more good fits than bad fits, and that's hopefully what we get this year as a best case scenario. We just gotta wait and see.
AJ, what you had to say, man? Cause you was itching to tell me something. What was it, bruh?
Hey, don't even worry about it.
All right, man. All right, okay. We ain't gonna talk about it then. We ain't gonna talk about it then. All right, that's a bet, man.
Oh my God,
that's a bet. All right,
70% on Lotto.
Oh my goodness, bro. Let's
man,
talk.
You saw bubble screens and intermediate passes that people are wide open. You should be accurate.
AJ, he wasn't even hitting those. He wasn't even hitting those before 2020. He wasn't even hitting them Jones. He couldn't even hit checkdowns because he was overthrowing them motherfuckers, bro.
So what? How does one improve their accuracy as a quarterback in the offseason?
I mean,
I don't know the answer. You either got it or you don't.
I was about to say it's not gonna be mechanical. Like your mechanics are your mechanics, but I mean there's probably small things that you could work into. Like footwork is always important. Your throwing motion is going to be there, But footwork in terms of your placement, that can work. I don't know exactly what he did. I'm not even gonna look it up. But in terms of general, there's things you could do lower body that can help you. But mechanics and your throwing motion, that's probably going to be there. That's all I can really say. I don't know, but
yeah, I be thinking a lot of that shit is cap. Like, because at the end of the day, we sit here and credit Mahomes for making all balance throws, whatever. But yet, like, we have people out here that try to like Dwayne Haskins. People were pinpointing on his footwork and mechanics. I'm like, bro, that's just how you play. You feel me? If the ball get there, who am I to complain about somebody's footwork and mechanics? Like, am I damn Peyton Manning or Tom Brady to do that? If we sit here and dissect every quarterback's like mechanics, I just feel like with Josh Allen, he is who he is. Like, he's an athletic quarterback with a strong arm. That's it. That's where it stops. He can run. He can make plays. But like, he does wild shit when you watch the games. Like,
yeah, he does.
He does. What the hell are you thinking, bro? Like, you dropping back 30 yards to throw the ball. Like, just take the sack or throw it away. Like, I don't know. I don't see elite quarterback, but you know, when you white, athletic, got a strong arm, you always elite.
Hey, well, that white, athletic, strong arm motherfucker was an elite quarterback last year. I put it that way. Let's say that then, because he was cooking shit last year.
Yeah, it
Oh
was
my
an
goodness.
MVP type of season. Yeah, MVP numbers.
Let's see what he do this year, man. That might be the equalizer for this whole debate. All right. So we talked about cornerback to an extent. We talked about Fitzpatrick to an extent. Not in detail, but there is a question about our roster. And just in general, there was a CBS article that said Washington had a top 10 roster. Now, I presented the question to y'all before the show and said I don't agree with it, but I think a fair question so it can be a conversation is, do they have a top 12 roster? And I'm going to present it to y'all that way. Like, is CBS on to something? Like, is Washington really that good on paper? Like, we know it has to come out to wins and stuff like that, but is the recognition and analysis fair? Like, are we that good in terms of being on paper a top 10 roster wise, a top 12 roster team?
Top 12?
Yeah, let's go with top 12 for this conversation. Top 12.
Do we have the list of the teams that were in the top 10?
That's actually a good. Give me 2 seconds. I could probably pull that thing up.
Because I want to see who we compare.
If you could read that off, that might.
Oh yeah, here it go. Let me scroll down to the bottom. Here it go. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm reading this in order. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Kansas City Chiefs, Green Bay Packers, Seattle Seahawks, Baltimore Ravens, Buffalo Bills, number 6. Okay. Tennessee Titans, number 7. Pittsburgh, number 8. Cleveland, number 9. San Fran, number 10. Actually, hold on 1 second. 1 second. Oh my goodness. They put it's 3 articles in one. All right, let me do this again. Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Cleveland, Los Angeles, Buffalo, Baltimore, Green Bay, Washington at 8. Pittsburgh, number 9, Tennessee, 10. That rounds it off. So right before Washington, you have Green Bay, you have Baltimore. And then right after, you have Pittsburgh and you have Tennessee. So Washington ranks number 8 in terms of rosters.
Was that the Rams or the Chargers?
The Rams is at 4. Chargers, oh my goodness, is Chargers even top 10? Rams is top 4, is number 4 on the dot. Chargers is, they don't even have them top 20. It's 20.
Chargers
Yeah,
20.
21. Yeah, 21.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So we're going off that list, in just terms of balance, because there's looking at or listening to the list, there's certain positions that are clearly better than what we have at quarterback. But we're just talking like roster from offensive line to running backs, linebackers, safeties, corners. Yeah, I'll put us up there.
Okay. So I'll give you some more context to help you all out. I'll just tell you what he said. Um, Ryan Fitzpatrick has a talented running back in Antonio Gibson to work with and improve offensive line to protect them. He's not going to claim that Washington offensive line is elite, but they have a legitimate left tackle and then a decent right tackle to fill in Morgan Moses. Um, Terry McLaurin has a legitimate number two to work with in Curtis Samuel. Washington also picked up Adam Humphries and have an athletic. They said Logan Thomas is an athletic tight end. Okay, all right. Logan Thomas coming off a career year. The defense is true to the strength of the club. They carried the team to the postseason. And then obviously drafting Jamin and signing William Jackson. He said that they may have the best defense in the league this year. So that's context wise about what he said about Washington. And you said top 10, Jerrell, AJ, Dre, where y'all at? Is this fair? Is this a top 10 roster or top 12? Excuse me.
Yeah, I think you can make the argument. Yeah, I think you can make the argument on paper. I think the people who probably would disagree with it will probably focus more so on the QB position, which is probably maybe average at best, when you compare it to the rest of the league. But when you look at the rest of the roster, I mean, you got two really good running backs. You got Antonio Gibson, who emerged. You got J.D. McKissick, who's one of the best third down running backs in the league. Offensive line, I mean, you probably have a top 8 offensive line in the NFL. They were certainly good last year. Like I said, you got two solid tackles on the ends. Your interior line looks good with Scherf. He's still there even at his price tag. Tight end, Logan Thomas is emerging. I don't know if that's a top 10 position, but I mean, it can work with what you have. Wide receivers, as AJ likes to point out, we don't have a number one guy, but we have a collection of guys who I think can, they can put up some numbers in a good offense. And then, of course, the defense. That's the bread and butter. That's what everyone's looking at. That's what they're getting ranked off of, because your defensive line is, probably maybe the best defensive line in the whole league. The secondary could be a top 5 secondary this year with Cam Curl, Landon Collins coming back in whatever role they're going to put him in. William Jackson and Kendall Fuller. I mean, you got guys there. And then the guy we got from Miami, the safety. So linebackers is the only question mark you look at on that defense, but you drafted one of the guys that a lot of people are high on, Jamin Davis. And as Washington fans know, some of us think Cole Holcomb's a little underrated, but he may be an average at best. But like I said, that's a question mark, but that doesn't take away from the rest of the defense with the defensive line and the secondary. If those two position groups are what you think it is, they can go a long way in this league, because you're going to get pressure up front and you may get a lot of turnovers as well, which is in turn going to help that offense.
Yeah, with AJ.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what Dre said. I think they definitely have a top 10 roster, but if you listen to the names of the team in that top 10, they all have a quarterback. We don't have a quarterback. And a lot of that ranking is due to the defensive side of the ball, like Dre touched on. I mean, if you can get after the quarterback, you have a high chance of winning games and competing at a high level. I mean, we just seen in the Super Bowl what Tampa was able to do against Patrick Mahomes. That's what led to Kansas City Chiefs going and getting Orlando Brown and Kyle Young and trying to improve that O-line, because at the end of the day, if you can get after that quarterback and you can apply pressure coming off the edge and straight up the middle, like, it's hard for any team to be able to do anything. You're always going to be disruptive and create turnovers. But, I think Washington's main holes is linebacker. We don't know what Jamin Davis is going to do. We're hoping that he does well. We kind of know what Cole Holcomb is and Bostic. But at the end of the day, if the quarterback play ain't right, you ain't going to win too many games. And that's like the main hiccup on Washington's roster. And that's why I think it's going to be such an attractive spot for any quarterback that's trying to get out of their current situation or free agents next year, because they literally are a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion. Even at the wide receiver position, a lot of things can change when you have a great quarterback. I mean, we've seen Aaron Rodgers make it work with other guys outside of Devontae Adams. You have Mahomes, who makes other guys look good. If you got a good quarterback, things definitely gonna look good overall on the offensive side of the ball. Yeah, like a whole bunch of random ass people, you feel me?
Yeah.
Outside of Devontae Adams, but if you get an elite quarterback play, and that's what a lot of the media folks are saying, like if Washington even gets like a part of Ryan Fitzpatrick from like the Tampa Bay time or whatever, this team could do numbers, but at the end of the day, he's still not elite. He's still a guy that has been a journeyman in the league, and until they, really solidify that situation, you really don't know what it could be. But they have all the potential. They have young core pieces on that team that you could definitely be a top contender for a long time if you just get a quarterback. So I agree with them being in the top 10.
Okay.
All right. I got a question. I have a question. I wanted to ask something. Do you all think that Ryan Fitzpatrick can do something similar to what Ryan Tannehill does in Tennessee?
No. I ain't gonna lie to you. Tannehill, like the seasons that he had in Tennessee, like his efficiency level, that shit was out of nowhere. It was random, but that shit was consistent. Like you would think that he was like on a heater, but that heater never ended. Like he had some bad games here and there, but like majority of his games since he took over in Tennessee was of top 10, top 12 caliber in terms of quarterbacks. So
But that's
personally,
the
I
Adam Gase effect.
don't see it. What you saying, Drew?
Yeah.
I would say that's the Adam Gase effect.
Because Adam Gase, he's good at that, but good at making people look bad.
Yeah, it's like when you let them go, they free.
Because coming out of Miami, yeah, right. Well, coming out of Miami, everyone had wrote Ryan Tannehill off, and then he goes to Tennessee and he revitalizes his career. I mean, he's done something that you didn't think he probably could do, which is pretty much manage a game. When you have Derrick Henry running behind you don't have to do much as a QB. But at the same time, Ryan Tannehill's not out there losing them games. But do you think Tennessee can win with Ryan Tannehill? Because that's the most comparable situation I look at in that top 10 to the Washington situation. Because as AJ said, everybody else on that list has QBs. But when you look at the two oddballs, you look at Tennessee and you look at Washington, you look at Ryan Tannehill and you look at Ryan Fitzpatrick, you wouldn't put neither one of those guys in your top 15 QB list. But can either one of these two teams win in spite of that?
I mean, I think it's more so the scheming things up. Like Tennessee is not asking Ryan Tannehill to win games. They're asking him to just play his role, make the short intermediate passes, bootleg, roll out, play action, play off the run, and you're good to go. Now, I don't really know enough about Scott Turner to know what he's going to do with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. I haven't really even seen Scott Turner like dial up a great offensive game plan and complete yet since being an offensive coordinator. So we really don't know. But even Tennessee being on that list is wild because, I mean, I don't think they have really any key pieces on defense. I like their free safety. But, I mean, I think a lot of that is due to Derrick Henry now having Julio Jones. But they don't really have like talented pieces on their team. But it really just boiled down to scheme. Like that's why having a top tier offensive coordinator matters so much. One that doesn't just stick to their system; they actually play the guy's strengths. So it just really depends on how that plays out. But if I think, like I said when we had John Keim on here, Ryan Fitzpatrick is who he is. You know what I mean? He's already been doing it within OTAs, throwing the ball in the double, triple coverage, getting picked off, forcing the ball different places. That's who he is. So if Washington fans are comfortable with that type of quarterback, then get prepared to lose some games because of that as well. Like,
hey, I'm as much as I respect Tannehill. I don't disagree. Like you gotta accept. First off, everybody in the chat and people who are here live, appreciate y'all tuning in. If y'all think Washington, or if y'all want to comment, y'all thoughts on Washington being a top 10 roster, let us know. Type in the chat, let us know something. But yeah, I don't disagree with AJ, man. As much as I am a person who I think that he was one of him and Jameis Winston. It came down to in free agency. Like those are the two most QBs of QBs that we had available to us. Like quote like technically available. Jameis was going to go back to New Orleans. It seemed like, but those are the two that you're really gunning for if you want a quarterback to operate your offense. But they're also the most volatile. So AJ is right. If you're expecting the bombs away guy, the person that's going to be giving your receivers a chance, there's a negative side that comes to that too, and those are the turnovers. So because I know you asked that question, Dre, which is a really good question. You also, you didn't give necessarily your opinion on the sense. Do you think he's capable of having a Tannehill season, or is this like something that you're still thinking about? Like,
and I have to. No, I have to agree with AJ in the sense of it depends on the team, because it is true that Ryan Tannehill isn't asked to do much in the Tennessee offense, but you can still they've been close. They've been close enough to that conference championship game or the Super Bowl or whatever with what they have, and they added to it. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, I don't know, because I don't think he's that type of QB. I don't think he's just a game manager guy. He's more of a gambler type of QB. So I'm not sure. He's actually a QB that can lose you games. He can win you games too. Like, I don't know how many games he can win you, but he can also lose you games with his style of play. But I did want to say something else on AJ's point about Scott Turner. I think his best called game where he showed the best flashes was that Cowboys Thanksgiving game. I thought he brought a lot out of his bag in that game, and you saw the offense moving at will. And my favorite play of the season came in that game. I don't know, I forgot what they called it. But remember when they did the direct snap? The fumble Rooski. They did the direct snap thing to J.D. McKissick, and no one knew he had the ball. But that's the type of creativeness I wanted to see out of him more this season. So maybe we'll see that more this year with more pieces, and also with a QB he could trust, because remember, he played a lot of those early games with Dwayne Haskins, who just wasn't ready for the moment, and he also had a one-legged Alex Smith for a lot of those games as well.
But I mean, Dre also, it's gonna sound crazy, but Stevie Wonder could have called plays against Dallas defense last year. Like,
hey, I was about to say, you ain't about to find another team as bad as them, bro.
That thing was wide open. So yeah, I mean,
I
don't know. I mean,
they did have a horrible
wait and see. Yeah, it's just wait and see. I mean, we'll get a good glimpse in the next couple of weeks when training camp opens, when we really get to hear about the reports of the installation of the playbook even more. So we'll see how the fans react when they start hearing.
Well, he gets credit for the Tampa Bay game too, right? To get a guy off the street ready for that playoff game. I think he get a little credit for the Tampa Bay game too.
I wasn't impressed with that, because at the end of the day, it's like I said, it's Gardner Minshew. I mean, it's Gardner Minshew once again, bro. Like, if you haven't seen this person, you don't have tape on them, you really don't know even what they expect. Washington didn't know what they expect out of Taylor Heineke. You feel me? It just so happened, but people raving about it like this motherfucker threw for 400 yards and they won the game or some shit. They still lost. Like, he really ain't do shit. Like, I mean, I applaud the effort diving in for that TD, but I mean,
I ain't gonna lie to you. He had some good throws that was dropped. Like one of that first jump, the Cam Sims.
There's a lot of open men on that game.
Yeah, so I get it. I'm just saying we gotta give him a little bit more credit. Heineke side. Well, Scott Turner too, because he drew him open. But
Scott Turner, that's what I'm saying. Because there was a lot of players open in that game.
But also, that's Scott Turner's boy, so he know him in and out. Like, they work with each other all season, all of that. So he should dial it up for him. You feel me? It should make sense. But at the end of the day, it's not about working with your boys. It's about working with what you do have at hand and making that shit work. That's what makes a great offensive coordinator. So, like I said, it's wait and see, but I'm not expecting too much out of Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I agree.
I already know that man gonna throw a couple pick sixes in the game, and we all gonna be
everybody gonna turn on him.
Our phone.
You know how
I think he could lose.
You know how this area get with the quarterback carousel. Like, I mean, they're saying it's a competition, but ain't no way you pay that man $10 million to compete against somebody that was just in a college campus or doing online classes, whatever the hell it was. But ain't no quarterback competition. But once that man starts throwing these picks, it's gonna get real ugly out here in Washington.
Hey,
and that can really change a lot of the direction of the team's season.
Yep.
And that ain't going. That's going to be earlier than we could probably imagine, because we say that every year when it comes to a quarterback competition, right? But this year is going to be different, man. Heineke already got a fan base behind.
Speaking of which, not to cut you off, Jamal, but I just seen a tweet that you all are like, because this is on topic. Chad Johnson disagrees with you, AJ. He says that remember this tweet. He said Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel are going to go crazy with Fitzpatrick at the helm, and he said Fitzpatrick is an aggressive QB that takes chances and will improvise at the line of scrimmage. And these two have the skill set that makes his job easy. I guarantee their production is bananas. No hat, no cap.
No hat, no cap.
That's interesting.
I mean, it'd be cool to see, but like, I don't know. I'm just like, let me see week 1, or let me even see a preseason game. Like, be able to understand what's going on a little bit better, because even when Scott Turner and Rivera had Curtis Samuel in Carolina, he ain't do shit. I was surprised they even wanted to go bring him back. Like, he didn't really do shit. He had his best year last year without them. So it's kind of like, bruh, I don't really know what they about to do, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, Stezo, like you said, Ocho knows best sometimes, you know. I give him that respect. But I'm not gonna lie to you, Dre. Before you said that, or before you mentioned that, I forgot what I was gonna bring up. So if y'all don't have nothing else to talk about, with the Fitzpatrick stuff, we can keep. Oh, that's what it was. We ain't about to wait till preseason. I mean, till regular season to hear these. Heineke already has a fan base behind him. So anything that you hear in training camp, there's going to be clamoring for him. Anything that you see, any videos, anything where Fitzpatrick doesn't look good in preseason, it's going to be that fan base that Heineke group that comes knocking. It's going to be loud, and we're going to worry about why the hell he isn't starting yet. Things like that, you know. So we shouldn't be surprised around here. Just basically to reiterate what everybody all just said. So it is what it is, man. So fellas, Jerrell, man, I appreciate you hanging out with us, man. And obviously we're gonna plug in what you got going on your end. We're gonna get up out of here with this last thing here. Training camp is obviously just a couple weeks away now. What, the week of the 27th? So we have one thing that we can look forward to is the cuts. I'm not saying that in a good way. I'm just saying that this is always the one thing that we don't see coming is the surprise cuts. And as we get ready for training camp, there's going to be some key position battles in key places. There's also going to be some things that we realize that we can do well without a player that's making a certain type of money. What is that position or that surprise cut that you all can anticipate happening this year? And I'll just leave that as an open conversation. But what is that one surprise cut from you? I can start if y'all need some time, because I already got one.
Yeah, you started off.
All right. So I did a video on this, man, and it comes down to the receiver position. Now, again, I mentioned the 4 that are guaranteed, in my opinion. Terry, Curtis, Adam, Diami. And then you're looking at Cam, who is, let's say 75%. He has a 75% chance to make the roster. Odds are he makes it, in my opinion. But then after that, Isaiah Wright, Steven Sims Jr., Kelvin Harmon, Antonio Gandy Golden, that kick returner guy that we be talking about, Dre. I forgot his name. And then
DeAndre Carter.
Yeah, DeAndre Carter, and then one other person that I can't think of. So these are the quote unquote, no disrespect to them, but just quote unquote bottom of the barrel, bottom of the roster type of guys. in the sense that they're looking for that last spot essentially to make the team. Antonio Gandy Golden, out of all people, was drafted by the team last year. And essentially you would expect a guy like him to be safe in terms of year 2, given that allowance to bounce back and things like that, to recover off a very disappointing year from his perspective and just from a production standpoint. One of the best opportunities he had was against Carolina late in the year, where he played like 80% of the snaps. He had a ton of targets. Let me take a look. But he only had 3 catches. And it just didn't look good from that perspective. And when he was on the field, it didn't look like he knew what he was doing. Like, a lot of people called that out during the game. I don't think I was one of them, but I do remember the fact that he was just basically existing in that space. He just wasn't doing much on the field. And then on top of that, he was hurt here and there. My point is, while he was a key, looking to be a key beast from Ron and company in terms of when they drafted him in 2020, time is passing by just like that, at the snap of a finger. They didn't already got a few players this all season to help out Terry McLaurin. You're in a position now where you're not only fighting for your job, but you have to fight against like 4 or 5 other people. It's not like 2 other people where they can just be like, okay, just give it to the guy to be drafted. It's an open competition. And for one of those people to get cut so soon under Ron Rivera is not a good look. But it also talks about the points to the competition that they have going on. But my point is, it's not going to be a good look for Ron. But at the same time, AGG is in a position where if he don't perform, he's going to be in trouble. I'm not going to sit here and say I hope he gets cut for other players. I just feel like he's in that position where he didn't show much, and I'm not necessarily entirely too sure that he can outperform 4 or 5 other guys to get that last spot. That's all. That's just where I'm at. I think it's going to be AGG.
I mean, would he really be a surprise cut?
I think he will, in the sense that you're not, like, from a coaching standpoint, you're not going to. We all know this. You want to hold on to the guys that you draft. Like, it's not a good look for you to cut these guys early on, and so for us, I don't think it will be a surprise. And clearly, AJ, from your tone, I don't think you think it'll be a surprise either. But it will be a surprise from other fans, but also coaches. They don't want to acknowledge that they made a mistake, or that they just gotten better and they got to move on from a guy just 1 year after they drafted him. That's just kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think in regards to AGG or AGG, like we said, man, wide receiver is a hard position to just come in and be elite. You know, it takes a couple of years to get to that level. So I think they're going to ride with him at least for like 1 more year to see how that goes. I think my surprise cut, I was thinking about it while you were talking, but I think maybe John Bostic gets cut. And the reason why I say that, the team under Ron Rivera, he's had a lot of veteran players get released. Like, he's also mentioned about wanting to be young and things of that nature. I think that they try to slide Jamin Davis into Bostic's position and play a younger guy at linebacker and just have a younger linebacker corps overall. So that's what I think is my surprise cut going into training camp. I just don't. I really don't know, because even last year, like I told y'all, that Adrian Peterson being cut like a week before the season really really shocked the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Especially with all the marketing material that was being used and the social media team pushing, Adrian Peterson to be cut a week before the opener was like, wow. So I really don't even trust Ron Rivera in that aspect when it comes to like older veterans. And as you see with the defense, everybody's young. The oldest person probably on the defense is John Bostic.
That's probably true.
I just believe that they're going to try to make it Jamin Davis linebacking corps and put another young guy alongside him to Holcomb and let them work and learn on the fly.
All right. Where y'all at with it, Dre and Jerrell?
I'll go first.
I might have to go with. Oh yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you, Maul. I'm gonna go in the wide receiver room. Uh, I feel like since we added more pieces, whether it's De'Ami Brown the draft, Humphreys and free agency, I feel like whether it's Gandy Golden was in my, I guess, bottom two. Um, but again, like what AJ said, I don't even know if this necessarily is a surprise. I think Steven Sims is gone. Um, I think Harmon stays, and either Golden or maybe Cam Sims, one of them. Lee, those would be my surprise cuts. But I think with our wide receiver core going from we don't know to now that we got so many, we got to cut at least one or two. It's going to be someone in the wide receiver room.
Okay. All right. Oh
I'm
yeah, go ahead,
gonna
Dre. My bad. I
say
forgot.
No, yeah, that's all good. I was going to say, I think DeShazer Everett will be the surprise cut. I mean, he's a guy who's been a staple on the team just because of his special teams ability. But now you have an overload at the safety position, where it's
Mm-hmm.
probably six guys competing for five spots, and I think he's going to be the odd man out because you have Cameron Curl, Bobby McCain, Jeremy Reeves, who I think him and McCain, I believe, are the best options to play the single high safety that they like to roll with. Then you just drafted Derek Forrest. And then, of course, you have Landon Collins, who you can't get rid of this season because it just costs way too much. So I think the Shades of Everett's going to be that outside guy looking in, and he's a guy who's been around for a while. He kind of reminds me of Kedrick Golston, who played here for years, and he just lasted through so many coaching staffs. But the numbers in this case, I think, are against the Shades of Everett.
And that's kind of where I would. I lie to you not. That's where I was going. I was going to ask the question, just a simple. What? Which one are you projecting? Troy Apke or DeShazer Everett? You had to choose one. Who is it that gets cut?
Well, I think Troy Acme is
Apke gets
already getting
cut.
cut. I think he's
Okay.
getting cut regardless of any of that because they're
Okay.
already trying him at cornerback. So that means they're looking for somewhere like, what can you do, dude? We want to see you do something. Like, I think it's because they like him as a gunner on special teams that they're trying to figure out what else he can do. But I don't think Troy Acme lasts another year here.
Okay. I'm in the same boat, honestly. I felt like it was DeShazer. Who was Jeremy Reeves? I was thinking one of those two had to go, but also when you ask about Troy Apke, I think he was kind of gone anyway. So I guess we're all in the same boat with that one, man. All right, all right. So fellas and everybody that's tuning in live, you know, I appreciate everybody who's tuned in. This was a good show for sure, and I appreciate my boy Jerrell stepping on with us, checking in with the Trap or Die podcast. Jerrell, I understand you got some things going on your end, man. You got a podcast of your own too. Let the people know like where they can find you and the stuff that you're working on too.
Yes, sir. My podcast called A Thousand Jumpers. It's multiple meanings. One, we do talk basketball and sports in general. But if you shoot 1,000 shots a day, you're gonna get better. And the goal is to be the best we can be each and every episode. So, uh, check us out on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, 1,000 Jumpers. We also have merchandise available. I'll probably send Maul the link, and it's a super link so you can access both our podcast and the merchandise, and you guys can shop. Um, Outside of that, we tend to drop every Wednesday. We record today, so it's like I did two in one day. Did my podcast a little earlier, and then hopped on here with you
Busy
guys.
man.
It's a pleasure being on here for sure. Maul, we've been talking about doing this for a while now,
Yeah,
so it's been a long time coming, and hopefully in the season we could do another one.
absolutely. All right, all right. So yeah, that there goes Real. Make sure you follow him on his platform. Make sure you check into 1,000 Jumpers. And I will send me the link, and I can definitely put it in. I can put it in the podcast description. Put that information out there. So yeah, that works, man. So appreciate everybody who tuned in live. Appreciate everybody who's listening. If you are listening, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. If you aren't, rate it. Leave a comment if you want to. If you leave in a 1 star, F you. per usual. It's all good. But yeah, I'm back tomorrow with the All 32 side of the Trap and Dive. We are previewing the AFC East. And then the fellas will be back next week. Again, previewing training camp, man, with some new guests on board. So with that being said, I'm out. Oh, virtual reload. Gaming, if you're in the Warzone, all that good stuff. Y'all see me tweet about it, y'all see me talk about it. Warzone tournament this weekend. The information will be released after this podcast, after this stream. It's free to join. It's $1,000 prize reward. You don't want to miss it if you play Warzone, man. It's free entry. Information will be put out soon. So yes, be ready for that if you play Warzone. That is the ultimate smoke. It's not gonna be easy, but it's gonna be fun as well. All right. I'm back tomorrow. Appreciate everybody who tuned in. Appreciate y'all. Peace.
Hey, appreciate y'all.